have Cartethyia. Now, I'm really excited for her. We've been waiting for the new wife since 2.0, and every time she appeared, the scenes were so cute. So I'm really excited to look at her closer. Now, right off the bat, there is one part I'm not allowed to show on YouTube, so that will be on my Discord server down in the description or in the pinned comment. Looking at her from the front, she does give off that broke goddess type vibe a lot of animes tend to go for. She doesn't have a full outfit, but instead has a lot of cutouts and a lot of symbolism regarding to her entity. Looking at her from one side, you can see that the sleeves she wears are actually longer than the dress itself. Other than that, her hair is pretty long and has some braids in it, as well as our usual you're not allowed to go out without heels, but this one doesn't really have any stockings or anything aside from the shoes. Looking at her from the back, it is where she looks the widest. Even though it's straight, her hair does spread out a lot, as well as the sleeves being quite wide at the bottom. But as you can see, the black part of her dress doesn't go past her hair. Aside from that, the hair has 3 little braids, which we'll be looking at closer later. The last side is pretty much mirrored, aside from not having an ankle wreath on the other foot. Starting from the top, Cartethyia doesn't have much detail to her face at all. In fact, probably due to her tacet mark being a main part of her face, she doesn't have much eyeshadow or lip tint or moles or anything at all. I've hidden her tacet mark, but her forehead is quite big, probably due to her bangs. You could argue that this is eyeshadow, but I think this is just a little bit of rouge to make her appear younger or more innocent. Aside from her tacet mark, her eyes are really pretty, being a light blue color with lots of pink detail inside. Like Shiakana, she has elf ears. Looking at the earrings themselves, they do look kind of similar to what Leviathan has on its sides. Though, as we know, Leviathan is fake and is actually a fish, but since Leviathan created her, it does make sense. Holy shit, she has such a big noggin. Holy fuck. Her face is like half of her forehead. Her bangs are slightly parted more to one side, kind of fitting to her wreath, as this one also isn't quite symmetrical and kind of ends in this corner here. Her hair overall is quite straight, having a couple of layers, but inevitably just being more straightened with little braids. Me personally, I love the small little braid in the center, and I feel like the braids on the sides could have had a similar hair tie or hairband or whatever that is to the ends of them as well, cause right now this just looks like they can open at any time, and I feel like they could have either given the same color or more blue tassels or something like that to the ends of these. Aside from that, her hair isn't any particular color, just being blonde and not having any tips or gradients as Uwa hair usually has. Aside from everything else, she has a blue-white wreath at the top of her head, which is how Leviathan, as we learned in the story, controls its subjects. Moving further down to her chest, her dress is cut into multiple parts, having a halter neck feel to it, but at the same time not being that at all, as she has holes here, space for her shoulders, as well as the dress kind of being one stripe going down and then meeting up with the dress. In general, her outfit is really complicated, which is why we won't have a strict head, upper body, arm, lower body schedule today, as I have to look at the whole outfit to kind of explain how it works before looking at a specific part. But looking at her overall, you can say that her dress is made up of 3 to 4 layers. This neck part, being cut at the sides but still holding up here, is going down to the very lowest layer of her bodysuit. Then above that, she has a kind of skirt looking thing which seems to be held up by these brown stripes, and she has white stripes connecting more white layer of her dress, and then she has brown stripes which do end here, holding up the white sachet parts as well as her sleeves. But now that we know her dress is made up of multiple cutout pieces of fabric. Let's focus more on the neck. As I've mentioned before, the neck seems to be kind of a halter, but at the same time, it kind of isn't, due to the holes at the sides. It also seems to have multiple layers with more gold details, and seemingly isn't that thick, as you can see her collarbones through it. It does have a very interesting pattern though, and fits to the thorns on her arms, head and leg. On top of that, she has a gold necklace with a similar pendant to down here. Looking at one arm, as both are mirrored, you have the blue stripe, which we just saw came from her padding, going all the way around her arm and only connecting the sleeve she has with this little ring. Aside from that, I do want to say this brown inside layer she has on her arm is also holding on to it, but looking at it closer, it isn't really attached to it. I think since you never see it this close in game, it isn't rigged to move above this part, so it looks attached to the player. Oops, feet. Looking at the upper part, it does have the motif of a cape, kind of being like a little knight as she wants to be. The pattern on it is kind of flag looking and has little ruffle inside. The outside is white and gold, while the ruffle has a dark blue to slightly lighter dark blue gradient. Moving further down, the underside of the cape pattern looks more like Leviathan. As we know, Leviathan created her. Not really the split version, but I assume since she was under their control, it does still look like it. It has more of the thorn pattern kind of swirling around, as well as more of the emblem, and the ends of it do kind of look like fins. The underlayer itself has another white to dark blue gradient with lots of little sparkle, fin-like lines, and gold detail. The inside is much of the same, so let's move on to the hands. Her hands don't have anything special aside from the most pretty nails yet. I don't know where she found red and pink nail polish in the Avenolium, but hey, you do you, slay. In my opinion, it's so pretty and does represent that she's still her own person. I don't think that Leviathan decided the nail polish for her. I guess we have to wait on that until I get my hands on Fleur-de-Lis's model. It is a red to pink gradient with tiny little pink sparkles on it. As you can tell, her nails and the sleeve have a lot of detail in comparison to this, being quite sparkly and decked out in multiple colors. I really love the aspect of this having 2 layers, and I kind of really want to interpret this as her being a little knight, as she also has little tassels on this. Also, something I forgot to put in is the little thorn bracelet she has. As we learned, the Thornodian controls its subject with these things, but I think she only mentioned that the head one does, but I don't know if this was put on her to symbolize that she is not just a tacit discord from them, but also kind of a puppet controlled by them. Moving further down her dress though, we have more of the open part with more wreaths going up it, and generally having the sachet and further down being all thorn patterned. Not only her sleeves like I mentioned, but also this top part and the bottom part. As I mentioned before, her dress has multiple layers. I find this one particularly cool. Here they try to imprint that this is kind of see-through, even though it kind of doesn't make as much sense as they hoped, as on top of her bodysuit she has this little dress, and they try to kind of draw in her thighs, which if you follow this, her skirt should still be there, but it is a really cool idea to already pre-shade where her thighs would be. Other than that, the inside is pretty plain, having more of this symbol and thorns running along it. Aside from the vines at the front, she has more at the back. The back side of her is pretty much the same, having the shoulder pads being connected to this neck piece and then connecting down to either her bodysuit or her dress via this piece of cloth. The cloth itself is held together by rings and is crossed over with this brown part, which is holding up this blue layer as well as the front parts. Aside from this thing actually going through here for once, she has more white strings holding up the layers. Much like the sleeves, this part kind of looks like Leviathan's fins, being again a gradient going from light blue to dark blue. This one though has a little bit less sparkle and not really a unique inside. And as I've mentioned before, she has more vines growing under her dress and probably also into the bodysuit. Probably meaning that these are supposed to be growing out of her body rather than being decorations. Though these are drawn on and these kind of just sit on top, so I'm not 100% sure on that. Going back to the front and moving further down her sachet, she has writing on it as well as a thorn crown and little stars along with these stripes, which do kind of make me think if this says Holy Blessed Maiden or something, since this outfit, I think, is still made by the Thornodian. The gold details continue down to the bottom, and she has 2 of these pendants going down from the sachet. There is not much more to say about her legs as she really doesn't have anything on them, so let's move down to her feet. Before we look at her shoes, I'd just like to say that these are fully modeled this time. They haven't really fully modeled feet at all, as all of the resonators wearing flip-flops or kind of open-toed shoes always had cut-off feet. So this is truly a first and kind of fitting for the new wife or rover. Moving on and looking at her shoes though, to me, her shoes kind of more resemble what you'd wear at the beach or with a longer dress, as these ones are connected to an ankle bracelet going down to her shoes, which do have little heels as well as a ring for the big toe to hold it down, kind of like flip-flops. Kind of like flip-flops, but we can ignore that. Again, as I've mentioned before, she has a thorn bracelet going around her ankle. Aside from all of the gold detailing around her ankle and her toe, the nails on her feet are painted in the same gradient as her fingernails. Looking at the back of them, they gave a little shine to the balls of her feet. Sure, and she has imprints of the pendant she wears at the back of her heels. Surprisingly though, the underside of her shoes don't have anything. Cartethyia's weapon of choice is the sword. While she's able to freely switch between herself and fleur-de-lis, her sword changes in the fleur-de-lis state. I'll be honest, I didn't really like Cartethyia when she was first shown, due to my criticism of Kuro's often interestingly strung outfits. I felt like she was too revealing. Given her poor elf aesthetic though, and her backstory, I've grown to like her a lot, especially her smaller outfit. Being stuck in the Avenolium and the world for so long made sense. I don't know about the large one though. Anyways, that was it for Cartethyia's dissection. I hope you enjoyed and have a nice day. Bye bye.